Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Leah. I'm the administrative assistant here at Africa Fire Mission, and I'm just so happy to see so many amazing people joining us for today's training. This is awesome. We already have a lot of people coming on in, and so we're really excited that you guys are all here today. We have a great training by Mark. He's trained with us before, and so it's going to be awesome. But before we start, I just have a couple of reminders that I want to let everyone know about. First and foremost, this is a recorded training. We offer it for free, and it's going to be posted on our YouTube channel later on. And we are also working on getting these recordings on a Google Classroom as well. And so that if you watch those Google Classrooms and write, I think we're going to decide if you write a paragraph about it, then you can get a certificate if you are not attending this class in person or live. I guess none of us are in person. But you do get a certificate if you attend 70% of the training, which usually looks like 45 minutes of a 60-minute training. And you will get the certificate that has your Zoom login name on it. And so if the name you see on your screen right now is not the name you want on your certificate, please change it so that we can get you the correct certificate. And then I also, just last reminder, I want to remind everybody I want to remind everybody to stay muted during the training. It just makes the audio a lot clearer for everybody else in the training, and so that we can all hear the instructor. But that is all I have. And Jose, are you in the training today? Do you have a word of encouragement for us?
Hi. Leah.
Jose?
Jose.
He might not be in yet, and so that's fine. We might just... Oh, Richard, are you doing the word of encouragement?
Yeah, today I'm sitting for he's actually busy. They are still planning on this. Yeah.
You're cutting in a little, in and out.
Just a minute. Now can you hear me well?
I can hear you a little bit better, yeah.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. Yeah, to us already morning. For us here, it's almost already evening. So hi everyone. Hope you are doing well. Sorry, Jose is a little bit committed. You know, we're having the symposium this year, and it's happening in the next coming week. So today I decided to see him. We have been busy alternating with him on the lessons. So today I was caught up. I'm told like I have to take the lesson. So today, there's something that I've been thinking very deep inside me, and it's personal inspiration. From everything that we get, how much can me as a firefighter can I inspire myself? This has come from something that is going on our workplaces. Some of us, you find like this so discouraged. You try to do something good and no one notices. You try to improve a skill and everyone thinks like you are trying to show off. So for me, I try to encourage myself, like no matter how people think like you're messing things, or they feel like you're showing it on yourself. You're not. What you're doing is when you improve yourself, and you have people with what we call, they have jealous, and they don't want you to continue learning. They don't want you to continue improving yourself. So it's a long story. So what happened? What I'm trying, I was looking at it in the perspective of us firefighters. At times you have to wake up early in the morning, take a shower, leave your family at home, and come to work. Where in this place of work, most of the people that we have in they make you feel like you're not appreciated, like you're not wanted in that place. So my encouragement today is to tell everyone, kindly, if you feel like you feel like you're not encouraged, don't look at what people do to you. Look at what you do to yourself. Because one thing, you have to love yourself. We love what you love. I have to love myself so that I can be able to love someone else. So if by one point or another point, I feel like people don't love me, sorry for that. If I feel people don't love me, then it shouldn't mean I don't have to love myself. Sometimes you feel like the workplace is so toxic and you need to take some time off, or you feel like you're giving up. Please don't give up, because remember that person who we always go to fight fire with, the person you go to rescue, they really need you. They might not always tell you thank you, but there is a God in heaven who sees from a different perspective. So the blessing, when we tell ourselves we count on the blessings never means something physical. It also means something spiritual. It also means someone else encouraging us. So that the thing is, we need to continue encouraging ourselves as we move on, as we do our jobs, and that is me. And maybe we would like to call to request everyone. We're gonna pray for a minute. So let's bow our heads and pray. Thank you, everlasting Father. We come before you this evening, God, with thanksgiving for another lesson that you have given to us, for another time you've given for us to meet all over our friends, firefighters from different countries, from different continents. We merge and we share the knowledge. We thank you because of our firefighting skills. We thank you because of our families. We thank you because of each and every firefighter. You continue blessing. You continue covering with the blood of Jesus. Protect them with everything you do. In every moment they feel demoralized, God, may you send the Spirit of God to come and shower them. And in the mighty name of Jesus, whatever we are going to learn today, help us implement it in our own way. Forgive our sins, Jehovah, because we are not worthy Jehovah with our sins. May you cleanse us, may you help us, Jehovah. In the mighty name of Jesus, we do pray and believe. Amen. Thank you so much, Ria.
Thank you so much for that, Richard. Thank you for not only just preparing such a great word of encouragement for us today, but also praying over the session before we start. I really appreciate that. And so thank you very much. And now I'm going to pass it off to Mark.
Hey, thanks, Leah. Thanks, Richard, for the introductory comments this morning. Everybody, welcome. Hello. Good to see all of you again. It's been a while since I last been with all of you to do our weekly teaching session. I'm gonna get my screen shared for you so that you can follow along with what I'm going to discuss with all of you today. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so we're gonna look at the topic today of go or no go. And just a quick little history on this title. This title is not my title. It's actually being created by a retired captain out of Seattle Fire, Mike Galliano. Is a good friend of mine. I know Mike, and we teach together at FDIC and do chit chat quite a bit. But this is actually a title created by Mike that he has gone around the country and has spoken on. And it's not my intention to steal his material and kind of repeat it like a parrot to you guys, but rather I'm going to use the same title that's been picked for our topic today. I'm going to kind of do a different nuance or approach it in a different way that will be applicable to everybody without it being specific to maybe what I deal with here in my own backyard, right? The title, go or no go. What does that mean for you and for me? And it's really a question that we're asking. It's a question that we have to ask ourselves as that first arriving officer on scene, or as that first arriving. You have to decide right quickly when we first arrive, are we going to go in or are we not going to go in? And that question is to be answered based upon a lot of other questions that we have to ask and answer to ourselves in a very quick short time frame. The difficult challenge that we face as firefighters, no matter where we are, whether it's in Africa or where I am in Michigan or other parts of the world, is we are always facing the clock. When a fire begins in someone's house and they make that call for help, right then the clock begins, the stopwatch begins in terms of from our response getting to their home and then that person getting help from us. How much time will it take for us to get there, to then put actions in play to help those people and to rescue them from their plight, which may be they could be trapped inside a burning building. And that stopwatch doesn't stop. It continues. The countdown clock continues until we complete the job. And there isn't really a time, there is no time on the fire ground to stop and think, to say, okay, everybody, time out. Let's just put everything on hold for a second. And so I can think and process information before we start to carry on. We do that in here at the training room. We do that here in the training grounds. That's where we can put a timeout in place and we can kind of look, think, pause, debate, analyze, and try and help to develop our brains and our mind to think in a much more quicker fashion. Because when that call for help comes in, we have a very little window of time for us to decide and to put actions into place to try and help. We're going to look at that today a little bit. And again, this question is being asked of everybody. Am I going to go in to help these people, or am I not going to go in? And of course, we want to go in. On the fire ground itself, we do have priorities that we have to meet and make sure we are always fulfilling. And there actually are 3 of them. I only have one listed here for us for today, but there are 3 that we do have to meet. And the most important one is what I have here on the screen, which is life safety. Life safety is our number 1 priority. The other 2, just so you know, the other 2 priorities are going to be incident stabilization. I do my best to image that inflicted from the actual incident, and that can be building or even the environment itself, but I'm trying to reduce that damage overall. But of the 3 priorities, life safety is number 1. That is our paramount one to address. And this has a 2-prong approach or 2-prong consideration to be thinking about. The first life safety that we have to be aware of is our safety. Okay, we are also a part of this equation. So when we do respond to a call for help and we are on scene to give that aid, our safety is also to be considered. We don't want to become the victims ourselves requiring help, because then we're just adding to the detriment of the overall situation. So we have to look and say, okay, with the situation we're presented with and is responding, is it only 1, 2, 3 firefighters? How much equipment do we have? Do we have a well-stocked fire truck? Do we have well-trained individuals? Is the hazards I'm presented with at the actual structure, is it going to be, is the building ready to collapse? Is it got other hazards that may be apparent, such as explosive hazards or electrical energy hazards, or even people and animal hazards that could be present, right? So all those different hazards that are on site, as well as our own skill sets, our own competencies, how many people we have to do the job, helps us to answer the question, is it safe for us to even be here? in the first place? Or do I have to, as I mentioned, get the incident stabilized first before I can then set foot into the hot zone to be of any effective assistance to the situation? The second aspect of life safety is then, of course, the people who are there to help. And so we look at ourselves first. Are we going to be kept safe? Are we safe to do this as far as what's being there for hazards? And the second thing is, okay, the people we're there to help, their safety is also paramount, because we want to save them, right? When they make a call for help, whether it's through a telephone call or other means of communication that's being used to say, help, I need help. The goal is for them to be saved and to be removed from that untenable environment. If they stay where they are, they're going to die. That's the plain fact of reality. And in a structure fire, that is not going to be a pleasant way to come to your ultimate end of life. So the goal is for us to remove them, to save them from that detrimental situation, and to bring them out into a much more friendlier environment, which would be, of course, outside the burning building in this case, so that they can enjoy another day and be able to live life from that point forward for as long as they are going to until such time, right? So we're looking at the go or no go question. We're basing this also with the consideration of, we're here to address the life safety priority, and we're here to save people from what they're being or what they've found themselves in and what they're calling help for. So I mentioned that there's a series of questions that we're asking ourselves, right? So the big one is, do we go or no go? But from this question, there are some sub questions that we have to answer. And I have 3 here listed in terms of what can help us answer the big question. All right, what information do I need to gather and know to help me answer the go or no go question? The one is, what do we need to know? And this is kind of the introductory question to what we call size up, where we're sizing up the scene, we're sizing up the building, we're sizing up the situation. We're going to size up the response coming to the scene as well. And all that's going to help me to answer is, what do we need to know? I need to know things such as, how big is the fire? Where is the fire? What kind of building am I dealing with? Is it a old falling apart building? Is it brand new in terms of construction? Is it well maintained? What time of day am I dealing with? Is it nighttime, daytime? Because at nighttime, most people are at their home sleeping in bed. Daytime, people are usually away and they're working. So I need to know, is it daytime or nighttime? I need to know how many people are in that building. That's a big question for me to have answered. In a family of 5, a lot of questions are being asked to help me answer, what do I need to know to help me answer the big question? Do I go in or do I not go in? How do we decide? How do I decide if I'm going in or not going in? This is going to be really based upon experience, for one, training, another, practicing the skills needed to effect a good rescue, where we're proficient with pulling off ground ladders to do maybe a ladder rescue, doing search in a building with or without a hose line. If we are going to take a hose line in for a search, are we proficient with searching with a hose line? All right, so that's all part of my decision process in terms of, how do I decide, are we going to go or not go? And training is one of them. Another way is also with, as mentioned, the size up, right? I'm going to decide based upon what I see, right? So right now I'm wearing a pair of glasses so I can see what I'm looking at here. If I don't have my glasses on, it looks very blurry. I can't quite see exactly what I need to see so I can effectively teach. Well, it's the same thing with firefighting. When I first arrive on scene, I need to see what I'm looking at so I can gather information to help me decide. So how do I decide? I decide by gathering information, right? So besides training and getting our skills practice, I need to also use my eyes and look at the building to gather information so that I can then make an effective decision is, do we go in or do we not go in? The third question there is, what do we do if we go in? And I hopefully have answered that question already with the previous slide, and that is, what do we do? We're going in to search for the person or persons in that building, and we're going to get them out. That is the short answer to that simple question. That's what we're going to do. And that is what our job entails in terms of taking a risk, right? Because we are taking a risk. We're going into a burning building and we're going to take the risk of us being exposed to the high heat, deteriorating conditions within that building, possibly ourselves getting lost, needing help from our other firefighters, but all in the name of finding that occupant or occupants, if there's more than one, and removing them from the actual structure itself, right? That's what we're going to do. And depending upon how we operate or how you guys will operate in terms of your standard practice, if you do take a hose line in with you, then obviously the other answer to that question is we're going to put the fire out, right? So if the fire is the problem that the person in the home is calling for help, if we take the problem away, then there is no problem. So if I put the fire out, then there is no more problem, right? So what do we do if we go in? We're going to put the fire out and get that person and remove them from the building. These are just a couple questions that we can be asking ourselves to help answer. Do we go or not go? As I mentioned, that stopwatch that's counting down doesn't stop for us to sit here and think and ask these questions. It just continues on. And as things continue on, things can get worse until we decide, are we going in or are we not going in? Here's a picture. This will not be a building that you guys may face in your neck of the woods. Maybe in the city centers, perhaps, but this is a building that I would encounter if I'm working and responding to a structure fire. And this is just an example to show you that when we show up on scene, we have to use our eyes to look and to start gathering information, right? So for example, looking at this picture here in front of us, what can we see, right? So I'm going to point out some things to you guys just that as a way to show how we're sizing things up. The first thing is the type of building we have. It's obviously 2 stories in height for a number of different levels. We have a mixture of what's called a commercial business on the ground floor, so stores and shops on that ground floor, and above that ground floor is going to be apartments or housing for people to live in. Very common in a lot of downtown or city center type areas where on the main street you're going to have all your shopping, your grocery stores and clothing stores and all that commercial business, and then above it is going to be your apartments for tenants or renters that live above it. So we have 2 stories. On the first floor we have commercial, second floor we have some residential living spaces. We can see visible flames, right? We can see that visible fire already exiting from the roof area of the one section, and we can see visible fire in 2 of the apartment units above 2 commercial stores. We can also see some smoke exiting the front of the building just above the 2 windows, as well as at the roof area. And we do see some light smoke as well exiting from the first floor area just below where the fire is at the same time. We can also tell based on the picture that it's getting into the evening hours or possibly early morning hours of the day, because I have street lights on there. So that indicates that it's either getting into the evening time or we're coming out of the evening and into the early morning hours. So most likely, as far as the occupants, we're going to have people as far as occupants in those apartments, either within the fire unit or beside, left or right of where that fire unit is. So in the question of go or no go, are we going to go in to rescue a person, say in the two units that are on fire, as well as maybe the one to the left of it, is a question we have to ask and answer ourselves. Am I going to go into the fire unit to save somebody? And the answer right now that I'm going to say to is no, I would not. And we'll explain why and show why in a few moments. But if I was to go into the unit left, where it says has a big letter B on the awning left of the fire unit, if we had to go into there to effect a rescue, just based on what I see, the answer is, do we go or go in? The answer to the question is yes, I would go in based upon what I'm seeing with my size up. Why would I not go in the fire unit? Well, we're going to look at that. We're going to look at some of the characteristics of what fire does to a person when they are exposed to certain temperatures within a particular time frame, as well as within a particular compartment. And a lot of times, I won't say a lot, sometimes when we ask that question, am I going or not going? It's because it's either going to be a rescue or a recovery. So if I am going in, I'm going to do a rescue. If I'm not going to go in, it's because it's not viable for me to go in. And at that point, it's most likely going to be a recovery. What does that mean, a recovery? Recovery operation refers to that the people or person to whom may be trapped within that particular room or within that building cannot be saved because they're most likely already deceased based on the conditions of the fire, or we just can't get in there to get to them. So they would, and they will, unfortunately, become deceased. And so we're still going to recover the body, but at this point, we're not going to rush in to do so. We're going to stabilize the incident by putting the fire out, ensuring it's completely out, making sure the building is safe for us to go in. And then at that time, we would go in and make the recovery of the deceased person or persons. So it's either going to be a rescue operation or it's going to be a recovery operation. Okay, so some more questions we have to ask ourselves, again, to help answer that big question, right? And there's three we have listed here. What are we saving? Are we saving the building? The answer is no. We're not saving the building. Even though our three fireground priorities are property conservation, that's going to be low on the list. I'm not going into a burning building to save it, but rather I'm going in to save the people who are inside that place. So that's what we are saving. The ground, and the next day we'll bulldoze it away and start building a new building. So we're not saving a building. We're going to save the people who cannot be rebuilt. We can't rebuild each of us when we're deceased, unfortunately. What conditions exist to enable our actions? The conditions, as we'll look at in a short while, have to be that we're able to go in. It's not going to be a fully developed fire that prevents us from making that entry and going in. And a third question, which is, what is smoke and the fire doing and what's it going to do? So again, going back to, say, my picture here, for example, I'm looking at the fire that I can visibly see. I'm looking at the smoke conditions, and besides what I just see, I have to also ask myself, what's it going to do? Is it going to grow Is it going to move from one unit to the next? And that's what this third question is doing. And then where is it going to? So this is all part of my size up. And even though right now we spent so far about 15, 20 minutes talking about size up, this has to happen within seconds of when we do get on the actual fire ground. So a lot's happening. And as that first arriving officer or firefighter, you've got a lot of thinking and decision making to do within that short time frame. So another good picture I'll show you from a fire I went to a little while ago, right? So you can see there the outcome of what the fire did. Okay, so this fire actually began on the outside of the building, and a very windy day, and the wind was able to blow the fire basically into the second story bedroom, upper left corner of the home, blew the fire into that bedroom and up the wall as well, right? And again, based on what are we saving? Well, at that time, in that particular day, there was a person in that home still. So we went to that fire to save that house, couldn't get out. What conditions existed? We did have an outside exterior fire as well as an interior fire at the same time. But that fire, as far as what was it doing, it was only burning in one bedroom and on the outside of the house. And where was it going to go? Well, it was going to spread into the kitchen below as well from the outside, and possibly into the bedroom to the right. But the individual who was in that house was not in a fire room. They were in a room next to the fire room. And so that allowed us to go in to make the go. We went in to locate and find the person and to bring that person out. So these questions that we have here were asked of us when we first arrive on scene, as far as in our minds, right? We're asking these things in our minds, and the ultimate answer was yes, this is a go for a rescue and not going to be a no-go. As part of our information gathering, we have to, as I mentioned, for the rescue versus recovery, if it's a rescue, we have to make sure we know that we have people in there. So some suspicion that we have persons within that home, and that suspicion can be communicated to us in different forms. Right? One way is going to be actually seeing a person. So if I see a person at a window doing this, calling for help, then we know someone's in there because I can see them. Or if I can see a person maybe slumped over the windowsill of a window or at the door, and they're flat there in the ground on their face, just inside the building at the door, again, I can see them. So I know we have at least one person when home. Another way, another clue is going to be neighbors, a neighbor telling us, hey, there's still someone in that house, or from the family. There have been times, and I'm sure the same thing happens down where you guys are, where you have a fire in a house and it may be a family of 6 or 8 people living in there, but of the family of 6, 3 of them are able to get out. And when we get on scene, they tell us, hey, there's still 4 or 3 more in the home. We have, our brother, sister, or father, or mother, or aunt, and uncle is still in that house. So they're telling us that, hey, there's people in there. So we know we still have people within that building. I mentioned in the beginning about time of day. Right? Is it a daytime or nighttime situation? Because again, most people at night are at home sleeping. In the daytime, they're usually out and about working, or they're out and doing different things, but they're not, there's a lesser chance that they are actually in the home during the day. So time of day will be a big clue. Another clue is going to be, what can I see on the outside of the home? So when I pull up that particular building and I see cars parked in the driveway, I see toys in the front lawn of the home. That's going to give me ideas of I have people in there. If I have parked vehicles, people are home. If I have toys in the front lawn, I'm going to have people, including maybe smaller children, in that house there. Right. So all those clues are going to help feed information to me into my mind to tell me we have suspicion that there's somebody in there. Another good one that's not really mentioned here is the person themselves who need to be rescued. A lot of times we get phone calls, use a number 911. You call that number on your phone and it goes right to a dispatch center to receive help. So you call 911 and the fire department responds to your address. And a lot of times that 911 call, that call for help, comes from the person who actually needs the help, and they're still trapped inside the building. And so they're calling 911 saying, "Hi, yes, it's Richard here, and I'm trapped in a bedroom in my house. I can't get out, and there's fire in the kitchen below me." And so we know there's a person in there because they're the ones on the phone making that call, and they're able to talk during the whole time to the dispatch person, who is then updating us on the portable radio that we've got somebody trapped and they're on the phone talking to us right now. Right? So we know that there's something. So that suspicion is confirmed that yes, we got people in there, which requires us to do that go rescue at that point because they're still alive. They're talking and asking for help, and they're on that phone making that lifeline call to be rescued. Okay, it's another picture here that we can look at for a quick second. And this has some unique clues that we kind of pick up. And again, this building may not be a typical building that you may encounter down where you are in Africa, but the same similarities are going to be applicable. So for example, what time of day is it? It's nighttime. You can see the black in the sky, so in time, people are probably going to be home at this point in time. The last from the building, but we cannot see right now any visible fire, right? So all we can see is smoke, and we can see smoke leaving the building at the peak of the roof on the one side. We can see smoke exit the building from where the roof meets the wall under that area there. And even though we can't see a moving picture right now, all we're seeing is a still picture. The smoke itself can tell us a lot in terms of what's happening inside. If it's got a lot of high heat, a lot of energy production, if it's still developing and growing and so on. And right now, that smoke condition that we're looking at is telling us that we have a buildup of heat right now going on within that structure. We have probably a bedroom or a small, small bedroom fire probably, and it's now still growing and spreading within that structure there. So in this case, if there are people within that home, as the question on the slide is asking, are these lives savable? And the answer is yes. Yes, they are, right? Because I don't have a completely fully developed fire within the entire building. It's still developing and growing, and it allows me with my crew to get there and to either take a hose line in with us, which you can see in the picture. If you look closely, you'll see a hose line going up that concrete step and going into the front or at the front door. But it allows me to take a line in with a crew to do a search and control and put the fire out, Or if we have no hose line, I can still go in there with my crew member and we can do a quick search and we can locate and find our occupants and get them out. So the answer is yes, we're going to go in this case to do a rescue. So I mentioned that we're going to look at what happens to a person when they are exposed to fire and what happens to them, as well as where we're going to find our victims commonly within that structure. And I have this door I use when I teach to illustrate, because we always teach and instruct to close the door. Some of the important points that when it comes to searching and victim rescue, what's relevant to us, what should we know about? And the very top one there is what happens, or what does fire do when it gets to that full point of full development in terms of it flashing over and then going from flash over to becoming a fully developed fire? What temperature range? That it takes between that range of 900 and 1200 Fahrenheit, we're for phase of fire occurring. Once flashover occurs, then we're getting into even more of a temperature increase to roughly 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and now we're at that full room involvement. It's fully developed, there's fire from top to bottom, front to back, and it's just one big, huge fireplace. How can we tell what the temperature is within that particular environment or room? Well, with the use of thermal imagers. So if you guys have access to a thermal imager, that's going to be a great asset to look at the environment in front of me or above and below and beside, and to get a temperature reading of what does my firebox look like on the inside? Is it still within that lower 700 range, or am I into the 1200 plus degree range at that point? Tell me what stage fire is at. Is it pre-flashover or are we at post-flashover? The second, in relation to temperature, if you look at the middle box, it shows us what happens to our gear. So when we're wearing our firefighting gear, it's pervious to not getting burned or break down because of the heat. It will. So our gear, as well protected as it is, will start to break down and start to get burned, essentially, between 600 and 900 degrees Fahrenheit. So almost at that flashover range is where we have our protective equipment to and start the failure process, because it's being pushed way beyond its limits. But just out of protecting it. Victim fatalities, right? When people are in a building, as that often, how are they going to succumb to the effects of fire? What kills them in a fire? And the number one reason, or cause, I should say, is due to the toxic gases that are being produced within that building. So that smoke that we see in those pictures, that smoke is toxic gas. And that toxic gas, that's unburned combustion products, when that person inhales that into their lungs, that's what's asphyxiating them from continuing on to live. They can't breathe. And so they essentially are asphyxiating or choking, essentially, on that toxic gas. That's the number one cause of deaths for people caught in fires. Number two is going to be the intense heat, right? That intense heat is cooking their body, essentially, and which leads to number three, which is burns. Burns are the result of heat, but the heat helps to also heat up the air, and we as a human being cannot breathe superheated air. So when we are breathing in that superheated air, because we have to breathe something and we're going to inhale what we can, that superheated air will burn the trachea of our lungs and our throat, and will cause that to swell up. So now we can't breathe at all. And again, we're going back to a choking situation because I burned my trachea, right? And then as I mentioned, number 3 there is burns. Getting actually burned by the fire is the third cause. So knowing that the toxic gas is the number 1 reason why people do die is going to help us to realize that when we do have smoke, our job is to get them away from that, as well as the heat, right? There's fire going on, and where fire is also smoke, we can get them away from the heat, get them away from the smoke, and hopefully give them a chance to live with medical intervention at the same time. Where am I going to find my occupants? That bottom box is going to give us some ideas, all right? And this is based upon statistics that we've gathered based on numerous rescues over the years of where do we find our occupants commonly. As you see, their bedrooms, almost 50% of the time it's in the bedroom. Again, that's based on time of day. So nighttime, it's a guarantee that they're going to be in that bedroom somewhere, whether it's on the floor or on the bed. But if I search that bedroom, I'm going to find the person. 6% in the family room, which is a large room for all the family to gather and hang out and have fun, talk, and play games. 10% in the hallway, 8% in the kitchen, and then it goes down from there into other parts of our home. But the main ones there are the bedrooms, hallways, which is part of your exit points of your home. You got to think about if you're in your house and a fire begins in your home, how are you going to get out? Well, you're going to get out by leaving your bedroom, going down the hallway to the front door of your home and outside. So exit points are going to include hallways and windows and doors. And if it's a 2-story home, the stairs as well. The stairs going down to the main floor to get out. So if we are going to go in to do a rescue, we need to focus that rescue as well on where am I going to find my occupants. And again, if it's nighttime, so if you go back to the picture of the house at nighttime, I'm going to find my occupants, guess where? Most likely in their bedrooms or in the hallway or by windows or by doors because they're trying to get out. They got up, they were to the fire by something, detectors going off in the bedroom to alert them to the fire. They awake from their sleep. They go, oh, I got to get out of here. And they try and leave their bedroom. And as they're trying to leave their bedroom, they are breathing in toxic smoke. So they fall down the ground right there in the hallway, or right there by the window, or right there by the door. And all the examples I've been using so far about like seeing a visible occupant, if the door's open and they're right there in the ground, or if they're out of windows, slumped over the sill, unconscious, that's all because of the pre here of victim fatalities. What causes people to go unconscious or die from a fire? And that is, number 1, toxic gas. They're going to be breathing that dirty smoke, that dirty air, and they're going to become rendered unconscious because of it. Or they're breathing in superheated air. That's number 2. Number 2 reason showing, breathing in superheated air, and they can't breathe anymore because of the swollen trachea. And so they go unconscious and they fall down or lie down or collapse, I should say, right there, which might be in the hallway, by windows, or by doors. Right? So if we know those common areas, then we can focus the search of that area, and we can go in to do that search and rescue with much more effectiveness. So I mentioned in the beginning about sizing up the situation and looking at us in terms of who do I have arriving on scene and with what resources or equipment do I have? Because if I don't have any equipment, I'm really limited to what I can do. But if I have equipment like a hose line, water, SCBA for breathing, plus my fire gear, maybe some hand tools, then I can do a lot. I can be very effective at that point. So can we access these spaces? Again, based upon my size up, if the whole building is one giant ball of fire, can I access that building by going in? No, I can't. Because if I go into a burning building, it's completely engulfed from top to bottom, front to back in visible flames, what's going to happen to me or to us? We become the people needing help. We're going to burn up because of us going into that inferno. But if I have only fire in one bedroom of the house and the rest of the building is just full of smoke, well, can we access that? Sure we can. We can make our way in and we can get access to the actual fire room and put the fire out, or at the same time do my search and remove the occupants. So knowing what we have for equipment that's either there or coming still is also a key factor to be considering in terms of, am I going to go in or am I not going to go in? Maybe I can't go in because it's fully involved. And all we can do is step back and just put our hose lines and put water on that building to try and put the fire out. And then we're into, at that point, a recovery of who may still be inside that particular building. Sometimes it takes us time to get in, all right? So worst case scenario might be you guys get called to a structure fire, only one person is able to respond, and that's you, right? You're the only one guy arriving on scene. What can you do with only one person? You may have to wait for more help to arrive. And that might be part of the time it takes to gain access, because you're waiting for another person or another two firefighters to arrive on scene to help make this situation safe for us to go in. Would you go into a burning house by yourself? The answer would be no, we shouldn't do that. Because if you need help, who's going to help you? There's no one there to help you, right? So we want to have at least another person there to help us, so that if I need help or they need help, we have that help there, and I have working hands to help us make that scene safe for us to be there. Again, go back to the very first slide. Life safety is a #1 priority, and that also includes us. We have to be ensuring that it's safe for us to be there and safe for us to go in based on our resources and our equipment, as well as our training. So it might take some time to gain access. And as that time is counting and the stopwatch is still counting down the time or counting up the time, the fire is still growing, getting bigger and getting worse, which makes the go or no go question have to be answered. Well, at the beginning, we could have gone in, but because I didn't have a fire truck or hose or more people on scene, we had to wait until I did get there. And now it's a no-go. We cannot go in because the fire's gotten too big and it's not tenable for us to go in there and do a search or a rescue. I mentioned about smoke, and I know our time's almost coming to an end here. I don't want to go too long, but we did mention about smoke. In terms of looking at the smoke and be able to read it. And I don't want to take much thunder from next week, because next week I'm going to talk about this in more detail, but how to read smoke. But the smoke itself can tell us what's happening in terms of the stages of fire. Is it still in that early ignition phase? Is it still in that growth where it's growing up to be into the flashover and into my fully developed? Or am I already in a fully developed situation right now? So looking at the smoke is going to help tell me where am I at in the stages of fire, as well as possibly the location of my fire and how things are also progressing. And there's two terms we have there, which again, I'll spend more time on that next week with you all. But the two terms are laminar or turbulent. Is my smoke very turbulent, which is fast and with aggression leaving the building? Or is it laminar, meaning is it very lazy and slow, right? So those are two types that you can look at and see, is it fast, aggressive moving smoke, or is it kind of late time to get out of the building? And again, those those profiles help me to decide again, if I'm going to do a go or no rescue. So right now I know it's on 1 o'clock. It's 8:56, and I'll talk for a few more minutes, and then we'll have to probably come to a close, I imagine, real soon. So in this picture we see smoke and some visible fire. And again, it's only a still. It's not moving as far as the picture, so you can't really see the smoke itself. But just based on that still photograph, that black smoke at the front of the house coming out, that would be what we call turbulent. There'd be a lot of aggression of that smoke pushing itself out of the building and progressing, it's growing. And even though I see visible fire at the back of the house on that picture, in due time, if I do nothing, that fire will eventually grow and travel and be now at the front of the house. And all that black smoke you see at the front of the building that is exiting, it will become fire itself in a short time frame if you don't do anything. That's how we can tell and look at smoke and see what's that smoke telling me about what the fire is doing. Are we at the phase, pre-flashover, post-flashover, fully developed kind of. For example, of slow moving smoke and the picture, but it's slow moving smoke that's really moving slowly, so not a lot of high heat. It's still in that growth or ignition growth kind of phase of it's ignited and it's just kind of making stuff growing. Or it could be here that the fire has already happened and now dying down. And that dying down also comes sometimes slow moving as well in the process. Another good example of really angry aggressions. Again, still a picture showing very angry smoke, leaving that's a lot of heat in that. But volume, velocity, density, color, how that can kind of tell us a lot of.
It shows that he actually just got kicked out of the training, I think. Oh, or maybe he's back on. I know he's currently at a hotel, and so his internet is not amazing, and so he may have just gotten kicked off for a moment.
No, I'm here still. Sorry, I was gonna say sorry, folks. I think I may have pressed the wrong button, but I hope you guys learned something from today. And
awesome.
And again, I'll see you guys next week. Next week, just so you know, if you're joining in, I'm going to be actually at a burn building all day next week. So it's my plan to teach to you from that burn building. So it won't be in a classroom, won't be in a hotel room or my office. It'll be actually on site, and you will be hopefully able to see some different examples of stuff, and I can kind of relate the material a little bit better to you as opposed to your typical PowerPoint kind of presentation. So thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, night, and we'll see you guys next week, hopefully.